One of the most recognizable video game companies, Namco, was about to release to the public their latest game, a project that took developer Hideo Yoshizawa a whole year to finish. A game that defied the 90s first-person shooter formula in order to appeal to a younger audience. This game was named Klonoa Door to Phantomile was the first game of the Klonoa series, being released exclusively on the PlayStation and being highly acclaimed as one of the best platformers the console had to offer. The unique gameplay following this cute little mascot and its 2.5D surroundings are what makes this game really enjoyable to play. And on top of that, the soundtrack and creative level design are the reasons why so many players around the globe still consider this as a good old underrated classic. However, there were a minority, small and niche group of people who, apart from enjoying the characters, music and the mechanics behind it, were amused by the thrilling challenge of beating this game as fast as they could. As many other speedrun stories, Klonoa's one begins in the ancient famous website named Speed Demos Archive. There, a user by the name of BrewiKitty asked if people would be interested in running such an obscure game. The only responses they got: "Klonoa is just too easy. The run wouldn't be impressive, I'm afraid." Oof, not a good start for a little cat-like mascot. But hey, if it's that easy, surely someone will give it a try, right? Just 6 months after this post, in May of 2007, a user named Shadow Laguna decided to be the first to speedrun this game. He wanted to complete a full run in one sitting and without dying. Shouldn't be too hard, right? Game is super easy. Oh, well, now the run is going to be a segmented one instead of a single segment. For those unaware, the first one means a speedrun where a player attempts to complete the game in multiple parts. This player can retry each section as many times as they want, and at the end, they edit these segments together to release a full video. The single segment one is the method speedruns are being done nowadays, completing the game in just one go. In February of 2008, Shadow finally finished recording all his segments, giving him a final time of 1 hour, 4 minutes and 31 seconds. Sadly, we are not able to watch this run, as it was rejected by the SDA moderators, possibly due to audio issues. Nevertheless, it was a good attempt from Laguna, who after his rejection stopped trying and moved on. The forum then gained some activity from different users, but no one really seemed to be tempted to try a run of their own. But what is required to beat Klonoa Door to Phantomile exactly? As mentioned already, this game is a 2.5D platformer in which Klonoa can only move in 2 dimensions. But everything is rendered in 3D, allowing the path to curve and objects outside the path to be interacted with. Klonoa can attack by throwing Hupo at enemies and having him return with it. Klonoa will then hold the foe over his head, which allows him either to throw it to another enemy or bounce off of it to jump into the air. That's a summary of all the basic mechanics. The full game consists of 7 stages, or visions as they are called. Each vision, with the exception of the last one, is divided into 2 sub-visions. After each vision is completed, we enter a boss fight. This grants us a total of 12 levels, 6 boss fights and 1 final showdown in the last vision against a nightmarish entity named Nahatump. A group of Japanese runners start grinding the game. These seem to be really talented players that lowered the time by several minutes thanks to their knowledge and love for Klonoa. Runner Jujup has the oldest known time in this group with a 1 hour 22 minutes and 50 seconds, most likely done in late May 2011. The following days he lowered it to a 1:14:31, a 1:99, a 1:68, and finally a 1:2:51, apparently done on the last day of May. A couple months later, runner Haruka lowered it to 1 hour and 31 seconds. And this was beaten days later when a smiling gentleman completed a run of 59:56, becoming the first person to hit the sub-hour mark. After a few more days had passed, a runner by the name of Setako beat this run with a time of 57:34, which he later improved to 56:48. All of these runs were most likely available to watch on the Nico Video Japanese website, but sadly there is no trace of any of them left. We cannot know for certain what were the strats and optimizations each runner used to get all these times, but fortunately, we do have one piece of media that could give us a notion of what these runs were like. On the 10th of March 2012, a user named Mr. McCorley uploaded to Nico Video a task run of Klonoa. TAS stands for Tool Assisted Speedrun, which means, in short terms, a run composed of precise inputs recorded with tools such as emulators. These speedruns are generally created with the goal of making theoretically perfect playthroughs. Let's take a look at what Japan was capable of. 1-1 starts pretty clean, with a neat little jump over here to save over 2 seconds compared to the intended way. 1-2 also goes smooth. The task does a really good job avoiding all types of damage so far. Coming up is the first boss of the game, Rongo Lango. In here, the task uses a very effective approach. He uses a damage boost to pick up the small enemy at the right side of Rongo just as he's about to turn the other way around, letting Klonoa hit it without losing much time. In 2-1, he uses another small damage boost to avoid dealing with the big Mu in this section and manages to get really tight jumps in this area to avoid wasting time in the cycles. In 2-2, the usage of a clever damage boost here allows Klonoa to reach this waterfall area earlier. And not only that, the task also uses this enemy to skip climbing rock by rock and reach the next part of the stage. After that, he makes sure to grab a Mu to jump over this gap, and again grabs another one to save a bit of time going straight to this hole. After receiving multiple damage boosts to clear this area, he finally reaches the second boss of this game, which consists of the Evil King Seedorf and Cursed Pamela. The task defeats this boss with great precision and without wasting any second. Time to enter the Four-Locked Kingdom. For this vision, the game wants us to be looking for keys in order to progress through the levels. There is also this auto-scroll section in where we have to survive for about a minute. The task managed to survive with one Mu at hand to use in this box over here. 3-2 is a level in where you backtrack the map once you reach a certain point. The movement in here is quite good, but apart from that there is really nothing much to talk about. The run is completed fast but in the intended way. Kalkbolm is the name of the third boss, and this one is quite tricky to defeat consistently. You have to shoot the moves downwards at the right time or you will lose a big chunk of seconds if you miss a hit. The task doesn't waste a single move, so the fight ends up as you expect, a very clean Gelk. 4-1 is when things get a tad harder. The task does take some time to avoid being killed at this part, gets a clean shortcut over here and waits on these cycles to reach the end of the level. 4-2 start is delightful, and the rest of the stage is also really well executed. Next is our fight with Valadium, and the only way to lose time on this boss is if you take more than 4 shots to defeat it. On 5-1, our mission is to collect 4 color orbs in order to open the big door at the start and finish the level. The order to collect these is entirely up to you, and this task chooses to go for the green orb first. What you just watched is one of the biggest skips in this stage. The task uses one move to shoot the checkpoint bubble that was located way far into the stage. He then dies a second later just to be respawned in this new checkpoint, saving over 20 seconds. Later on, he collects the red, yellow, and blue orb the intended way and moves into 5-2. This level's main quirk is the shift between daytime and nighttime, and the effects it has over the platforms, enemies, and cycles that you must reach in order to get through this stage as smoothly as possible. The task uses a double jump boost over this area to avoid waiting for nighttime, get damage boost through these two enemies, waits for the shift in this section of the map, and reaches the last platform to meet the 5th boss, Joka. A boss in which you need a lot of precision and good timing in order to not waste any shots. The task implements a very fast strat at the beginning of the fight. It gets 3 consecutive shots on Joka to make him change into his beast form. When Joka turns into this creature, you will need to match the blocks beneath you to yellow to change him back. After 3 cycles, the fight is over and it's time to enter the last stages for this adventure. 6-1 requires a lot of memorization to remember which route to take after you've been clearing your way juggling around a bunch of enemies. The task does this impressive chain of grabs to reach the platform a bit earlier than you're supposed to, and manages to get some great jumps and small optimizations over the whole stage to save some seconds in every room. 6-2 is more straightforward, as you need to beat each part of the map to open the gates for the next one. Macaulay uses a small but effective skip in this part where you face the big move. If you inflate it at the right time, you can use him as a platform and walk through the small gap of this box. Once you've opened all 3 gates, you are ready to face Gadius, possibly the hardest boss in the entire game. The level design for this boss can get a bit chaotic and it's all over the place. One strat that the task utilizes here is a small animation skip that Gadius does whenever he enters phase 2. In order to skip that, the task touches one of the shiny orbs in this stage. This teleports you to a different area in which you can come back really quickly by just touching another one. Once you're back, the beginning of phase 2 starts. This boss has 3 different attack phases. The first one involves the bubbles coming down from the sky. The second one consists of groups of moves being shot in different directions. And the third one is probably the most annoying one. Gadius makes a triangle containing some moves in it. The only way to get them is to successfully shoot Hupo at one of the vertices, liberating the moves in the act. The task doesn't want to waste any time, so it introduces us to one of the most difficult tricks in this game, the phase 3 skip. With a bit of luck and correct timing, you can shoot multiple moves at Gadius before this reaches his last phase, skipping it entirely and saving a bunch of time. After this boss is defeated, the only vision left involves the last boss fight of them all. The gigantic creature known as Nahatumb also has 3 different phases, but unfortunately we cannot skip any of them for this run. The first phase is quite simple. Fill the cannons with the moves so once you've gotten 5, the leaders of all the kingdoms can blast Naha with them. The second phase is a bit trickier, as you need to shoot the crystals while the platform you're standing on is moving. The task goes off the ledge and falls to his death. This is due to the second phase starting with a long animation before actually being able to damage Naha. Dying here skips that, so it's really worth it doing it in runs. We are finally on Nahatumb phase 3, and similarly to its first phase, we need to fill the cannons with another 5 moves in order for the leaders to blast Naha. This phase can be quite a nightmare if you are not paying attention or if you are very unlucky in some situations. After the task fills the last cannon, Naha gets killed and that's time. This was a really solid task run using all the current knowledge of this game. And while it didn't have many skips or unintended shortcuts, it did show an entertaining and challenging run that had the potential to evolve into something even more impressive. This task marks a 51:48 as its final time, but that's because of task timing standards, which include the boot up system and the time it takes to reach the credits. If we had to retime it with the rules the Japanese players were running under, the final time for this task was a 48:26. Funnily enough, just 7 months after the Japanese task was released, in October 2012, an American player named Doji Fury did a task of his own. What's funny about this is the fact that Doji wasn't even aware of the existence of the Japanese one, which resulted in several time losses across his own tasks. His final time, using the same timing method as the Japanese players, was a 50:52, over 2 minutes behind the former one. However, there was one little strat in the whole run that was actually faster when compared to the Japanese one. In 3-1, Doji grabs this flying Moo to immediately grab the other one spawning, fills the big Moo before it damages him, and then climbs it so it can grab another flying Moo and get to this area quicker. This saves having to grab the Moo hiding in the tree, saving a few seconds. But what's even funnier is what happened next. So we have a Japanese task published in March of 2012, an American one published in October of that same year, and now, just 7 months later, in May of 2013, we have yet another task made. But this time, it wasn't neither Japanese or American. It was made in France. And it wasn't made by any French either. This task was made by Lapogne36. Lapogne was aware of both tasks from the past, and using all the knowledge from those runs and his own ideas, cooked a task that shaved around 3 minutes over the Japanese one. He did find and study some optimizations in order to make this happen. For instance, in 3-1, he uses a move to reach the superior platform much quicker. In the fight against Kelkbomb, he managed to get an early hit on it while this was preparing an attack, and he also gets another early hit using some clever damage boost at the very end of the fight. He takes a riskier approach in 4-1, and his Vision 6-1 and 6-2 are phenomenal. A good chunk of time was saved using optimizations in each and every single room of this stage, and this is very noticeable when compared to the former Japanese tasks. But most importantly, much of this time save comes from the most basic mechanic of this game, jumping. Lapogne jumps constantly in several areas through the whole run. He knew that Klonoa goes at a faster speed whenever he jumps while traversing uphill slopes. And adding all the improvements Lapogne came up with for the run, it certainly put this task in a league of its own. However, while these runs are impressive, they are, after all, tasks. And our goal here is to show what us, humans, can reasonably pull off. We have yet to find a single segment run with video proof, but fortunately for us, someone was finally going to take a step in and lend us a hand. In January of 2015, a runner named Blackwing5 started streaming attempts on Twitch. By then, the leaderboard in speedrun.com was already made, but it was empty. The only known world record at that time was the now to be lost 56:48 by Zetaku, and it was apparently available on YouTube. Black started grinding this game with only one goal in mind, and that was to beat Zetaku's time. On the 31st of January, he got a 57:49, which put him behind by merely 1 minute. But we finally gotten a full run with video proof still available. This run had some mistakes though that, if fixed, could surely close the minute gap. He had a rough fight with Pamela in 2-2, accidentally lost the flying emu in 3-1, got an unfortunate death in 4-2, and lost a bunch of time trying to go for the big moo skip in 6-2. Just to name a few. However, he also made some good plays that helped him get the sub 1 hour. He got the early hit on Gelg, the checkpoint warp to the Grim Orb in 5-1, and also a really clean Joka fight. 3 days later, Blackwing got a run that had the potential to beat the Japanese runner. He got a somehow better Pamela this time, with exception of this throwing mistake.
Okay, fuck. Oh, what? Oh, this is also another reason to hate this boss.
He got through Visions 3 and 4 without many issues, and got a decent fight against Palladium. 33 seconds ahead. It was time for Black to lock in.
Nice, that was a fucking based boss fight. Okay, never mind, I got it. I should not have gotten it, to be honest. I should not have gotten it, but I got it.
With this run, Blackwing beat Setako's time by 1 second. He then retired from running the game and focused on other projects. Without any runners to push this further, Black's time was on a path to become the longest. Well, that didn't last long. On the 22nd of February, just less than 20 days after Black's world record, a runner named Texterra beat this time by 1 second. He started running the same month and improved quickly as days passed by. His experience speedrunning Rayman truly helped him to become a prolific runner, and the best part was, he wasn't even done. Some hours after this time, he completed a run of 54:53, completely skipping the 55-minute mark.
Boom! A 54! Yes! Yes, we did it! A 54, dude! Nice! Alright, I'm not touching any percent anymore now. I'm not touching any percent anymore.
And just like that, Texterra stopped playing any percent to run other categories and games. Well, this was unexpected. A day after Dex got his run, Reddit user SutinT commented on his post accusing him of dismissing an unprecedented 53-minute run by Setako. Surprised by this fact, Texterra asked for the source, which Sutin immediately dropped. It was true. Setako completed a run of 53:04 on the 2nd of March of 2012, around 3 years before Blackwing even started to run. However, there was no video proof of this run. The only information we have about it is the date and an additional remark in the Japanese forums. According to this website, this run used what it seems to be a cutscene skip. One important aspect about this game is the presence of this opening cutscene, which initiates after you make a new file and enter the game. These cutscenes last around 2 minutes and you can always skip it, as long as you are playing the NTSCU version or the PAL version. Unfortunately for our fellow Japanese friends, you cannot do that on the NTSCJ release. So this meant that these runners had to sit through 2 whole minutes of an unskippable cutscene every time they had to reset a run. This, of course, annoyed many of them, so Setako came up with a way to get around it. He created a save file, then restarted the console and loaded the file. This put him right in the beginning of Vision 1, skipping the long cutscene in the process. This is exactly what the Japanese task used as well, so it made sense people were already aware of this since 2012. Let's move forward to 2015. Textera just beat Blackwind's time, but with this new revelation, the world record was never 56:47, but instead a 53:04. This, while it definitely shocked Tex, it didn't disencourage him to keep doing runs. In fact, with this new goal, he was more motivated than ever before.
Oh god, that was bad. No! 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 Oh no! Oh my fucking god! The Reki dude at last! Yes, dude! The Reki!
The debate about who was the current world record was over. With or without proof, Setako's 53 was now second place, and Textera had finally put an end to the Japanese reign. A couple of weeks later, a new name appeared attempting streams on Twitch. This is NKR, which stands for Noob Killer Roof. He promptly managed to get a personal best of 55:43, a solid third place in the podium. Textera quickly became aware of his progress and was excited to have on board another top runner for this game. Soon enough, they both started racing each other, as races were starting to get very popular thanks to Speedruns Live, a website that hosted many of them in real time. On the 27th of March, a race happened between these two friends that had an unbelievable ending.
I only need to hit one more! Are you kidding me? Dude, what the fuck? What the fuck, dude? It's almost world record! What the fuck? No! 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 That was world record, dude! By 1 second!
This was upsetting. Dex got the last hit on Nahatum, but ended up getting pushed by a move right after, killing the 1 second world record in the act. However, Dex didn't want to let this moment eat him up inside, So just 2 days later, he got a 52:38, beating his previous world record by 8 seconds.
Jesus Christ. It happens. Damn, dudes! Ah!
So what about NKR? Did he give up after seeing his fierce and only competitor push the bar a bit higher? You see, Noob wasn't a, well, noob by any means. While Textera had experience running a game like Rayman, Noob also had prior experience with a game a bit more sinister. You may mock his first name, but let's not forget about the one after. The effects era was finally over, but Noob wasn't satisfied just yet. One important detail that happened after this time was the change in the timing method runners were using. All the runs up until this point, with the exception of the Japanese ones, started from the file creation and finished on the last hit on Nahatum. However, this was changed for a better approach. Instead of starting from file, players will now start from first movement, and stop when Naha's HP crystal breaks. This ensured we wouldn't have similar situations like the time Textera died while the final hit was happening. With this in mind, Noob kept grinding the game, lowering his time to a 51:05, and a couple days later to a 50:42. In this run, Noob implemented many risky strats that helped him save more time than others. He got the last early hit on Gelkbomb, a really tight cycle in 5-2, and a really fast Nahatum. By October of 2015, the community for Klonoa had grown quite a bit. There were some runners who got times around the hour mark, but no one was close to Noob. Textera wanted to keep running the game for a while, but he also had gotten many other goals to fulfill in other games. Was this it? After a whole year of activity, was the world record too good to be beaten? Maybe I'm exaggerating. Perhaps I'm talking way too much. Maybe, and just maybe, you all would really prefer if I would be quiet. On the 25th of October, runner Caveman DCJ submitted a run of 49:24, becoming the first runner to break the 50-minute barrier. Sadly, we do not have footage left of this run. The one you are seeing right now is his run done in Summer Games Done Quick 2016, a speedrunning charity marathon, and this footage is actually the only one existing of Caveman running this game.
Oh no, I died! And saved a bunch of time with this awesome skip!
Due to this, we have little to no information about his world record. The only data we have is that it was most likely played in the Japanese version on a PlayStation 2 with fast disk speed enabled. This option allows for faster loading times, making it the most optimal way to run this game. Noob ran on a PlayStation 1 emulator, which did not have this feature. This meant Caveman had an advantage over Noob of roughly 30 seconds. It was too much for NKR. He didn't have the means to get this hardware, so he ended up retiring from Klonoa at the end of 2015. After thinking about it for a while, moderator Dan Cyber decided it was time to make a Klonoa speedrunning Discord server. This would serve as a place to discuss the games belonging in the Klonoa series, including, of course, the one that started it all. Many new runners from all over the globe were joining the community. We had runners from the UK, Netherlands, Australia, among others. But what about the country where everything began? We haven't heard anything from Japan since Etako's 53-minute run. Was there anyone that can carry on his spirit and be able to rival Caveman's world record? This is Harutomo, a Japanese runner that was about to take the top spot and keep it to themselves. There are some things to talk about from here. First and foremost, many runs from Haru are nowadays lost due to their decision to be removed. The runs I just showed are some of the few that currently remain. This makes tracking the world record history a bit more complicated, but we carry on. The second important aspect of Haru's era was the platform version in which they ran. Remember when I compared the differences between emulator and PlayStation 2 with fast 6 speed enabled, and how the latter one was the best way to run this game? Well, what if I tell you that there is a third one that's even better? Nam Collection is a video game compilation released in 2005 by Namco in Japan for the PlayStation 2 only to celebrate the company's 50th anniversary. This selection includes titles like Ace Combat 2, Tekken, Ridge Racer, Mr. Driller, and Klonoa. Harutomo was an owner of this collection, and promptly realized that it was definitely faster than the other versions. A comparison shows this very clearly. The loading times and transitions between rooms were much quicker in the NAM collection. Overall, it's estimated that this version saves over 30 seconds than just playing the original with fastest speed, making NAM collection the most optimal way to run this game. While this was a good time save for Haru, it wasn't the only reason why they managed to lower the record this much. Let's talk about skips. In August of 2017, a player that wasn't in the server named Balnior started looking for ways to avoid grabbing crystals in 6-1. This was part of a challenge run he was doing for himself. What he didn't know was that he was about to discover an insane skip. 6-1 has this cross-section part of the stage in which you can see the platforms for this prior room. This means if you were able to reach this section from this area, you could theoretically skip many rooms with dozens of enemies and large walking sections. Balnior then found that, when timed correctly, you can chain multiple damage boosts with these plants to get enough height and then do a series of double jumps which, if done correctly, will bypass this invisible wall. This skip saves about 1 minute and 20 seconds, and Balnior wasn't even aware of what he had just done. Just 10 days later, after acknowledging his discovery was useful for speedruns, he tried to look into one of the longest levels, 6-2. He found a small skip that allowed you to clip through this plane of the map to reach the plane below, and he also found that you can carry the momentum of the moving platforms while in mid-air, getting some crazy skips with it. People were astonished by these incredible discoveries, but Balnior had one more surprise in storage. In this stage, after reaching the last door, this platform will lift us to this passageway, which is the last one we have to walk before getting into the boss fight. But a closer look on this area made Balnior realize that the platform on the right side of the screen belongs to the third section of the vision. He then performed a precise double jump with the moves spawning from the sky, making him barely reach the passage. This saves a whopping 2 minutes, and just like that, Balnior alone has found at least 3 minutes and a half of time save for the run. Haru practiced, mastered the skips, and managed to hit both of them in their last run. 2017 was coming to an end, and Haru's 45-37 was still remaining on top. Let's have a look at the top 10 runners by the end of November. Damo, Chemi, and Kiara were runners in the 50-minute club, but weren't really interested in lowering their times anymore. Textera had gotten a new personal best of 51:21, but ended up taking a long break. Georgia managed to almost tie NKR, but neither of them submitted ever again another run for this game. Caveman was also completely retired, so that leaves us with only 2 possible contenders to match Haru's time. Elsis, a runner from Spain that started running half a year ago, and Balnior, the newcomer from France that was known for finding these outrageous skips. These two represented 2 polar opposites. While Elsis gradually improved his personal best for months until he became an experienced runner, Balnior had all of this game knowledge before his first runs, making big improvements over his personal best in very little time. It was inevitable. The world record was about to be beaten. The question was, who would get there first?
Fuck me. Fuck you. Fuck.
A really impressive world record by Valve. And what's even more impressive was the fact that he got this while running on emulator, which, as we stated before, loses about a minute in loading times when compared to the NAM collection. 9 days later, he lowered it to a 4520, and then, on Christmas Eve, he got one more with a 4507. After this run, Balnor decided to take a break and focus on other categories like 100%. The sub 45 was extremely close to becoming a reality though, and without Val in the way, maybe this was the chance for Elsis to get his first world record and be the first to break the 45 barrier. A 3 seconds improvement over the previous world record. It wasn't a 44, but finally, after all this time, Harutomo decided to take a step in and recover their title after a long hiatus. 2018 had just started and the sub 45 looked more promising than ever before. However, something happened just the day after Haru got their run. This is Vision 4-1, a stage in which we go through the ruins of the Wind Kingdom and explore the dark cave full of ghost-like enemies. For years, it's been known that this last section of the stage was many feet above this one. Getting from the bottom to the top was one of the biggest dreams runners have had ever since. And Balnor was no exception. But could he find a way to make this a reality? Was it even remotely possible? No fucking way. To do this skip, you first want to reach the place with the second flying move, and then grab the normal move walking around. Do a series of double jumps along using both the regular and the flying move. This is in order to gain as much height as possible. So whenever you reach this point, you start floating for a bit before grabbing the flying move coming in your direction. After this, immediately do another series of double jumps, float for a second before grabbing the next flying move spawning, and get another double jump to grab the last move spawning right next to you to finally reach the end platform. This convoluted skip saves approximately 30 to 35 seconds, essentially skipping half this section of the stage. But of course, this is even to this day one of the hardest skips in the entire game. Any input or timing mistake could be detrimental for the success of the skip, making it highly unreliable to go for it in runs. But you know what's really crazy? This was merely the beginning. A week after this discovery, a casual gamer, Amiki, or Pico as she preferred to be called, was streaming a normal playthrough of this game when Balnor came into her chat. He started talking about the speedrunning tricks and skips, and that totally blew Pico's mind. Just a few days later, she started doing her first runs, inspired by Val's words. Pico became very passionate about this hobby and began to watch more Klonoa speedruns, not only from this game but also for the others in the series. Then, an idea, perhaps far-fetched or crazy, clicked with her. For context, this game had a remake done in 2008 for the Wii, which was only named Klonoa. This game, while it's based on Door to Phantomile, behaves way differently than the original. There was one trick in this remake that runners had found just a couple months prior: the move under door clip. This trick allowed players to go through a door with an enemy at hand, something that was not intended by the developers. With this trick, runners of that game were able to find big skips in levels like 3-2 and 6-1, saving multiple minutes. Let's see an example of this in the latter one. If you grab this move at the beginning of this room and clip it under the door, you are able to completely sequence break this level, since you use that move to do a double jump here to get to the last part of it. This skip wasn't possible to do in the original PlayStation game. Or was it? Pico decided to give it a shot. First, she tried to do it in the same spot as the Wii runners, but to no avail. So she tried it again, but this time in a different room. After many attempts and tedious mashing, this happened. Finally, she managed to do this holding the left direction while mashing up and down on the D-pad. Now, with this enemy we can go back outside and still save an insane amount of... Oh, shit. Pico was so close to making this one of the biggest skips in the game, but unfortunately she couldn't make it past this wall, making her discovery basically useless. Or that's what she thought. Perhaps it's time to ask for some help, and Valnir knew the right person for the job. Our good old friend Lepogne. Just a couple hours after being tagged, he dropped this bomb. With the skip being possible, Pico celebrated the group discovery, and it was only a matter of time before a top runner used this minute and a half of time save and cracked the sub 45 easily.
What the fuck? Amazing! I can't believe it!
Val broke not only the sub 45, but also skipped 44 entirely. With this new time, he was finally done running any percent. Elsis managed to get a 44-minute run that put him right behind Valnir, once again losing another chance to become a world record holder. But the hopes weren't dead for Elsis just yet. Valnir was now officially retired from the category, but was still playing regularly to look for more oddities in this game. After Pico's big discovery, he started to experiment with the enemies, looking for ways to use this trick to its full potential. Then, on the 19th of February, he uploaded this video. Six-2 was broken once again, only this time not just in half, but into pieces. Similarly to the move under door clip, Ball came up with a variation that allows Klonoa to clip into walls while using an enemy. If you jump into this corner and hold the up or down direction, you will be able to clip just enough to carefully start tapping left. I say carefully because pressing the D-pad for more than 2 frames will result in him falling out of bounds, completely failing the skip. Once you notice Klonoa is halfway through the wall, which is usually when this shadow disappears, you can then do a double jump to the left and enter the third section of the stage, in which you can do the other skip previously found. This clip saves more than 2 minutes, and while it is certainly not an easy trick to pull off, its time save was too big to be ignored by top runners. This new finding motivated Elsis once more to keep grinding, and after all these months of being in the shadows of Harutomo and Valnir, he finally got a world record of his own. A 43.07 done just 1 day after the 6-2 skip discovery. a run that had a pretty sloppy Vision 5 and a big mistake in 6-1 skip.
No! Fuck! Fuck!
But that managed to recover all its time with the new 6-2 skip.
Nice! Nice! New world record! Yes! Fuck! I lost a lot of time, but yes! Finally the world record, I make the fucking world record. Okay, nice!
This was enough for Elsis to reach the top spot, but of course he was aware that his run was full of mistakes, so he knew someone was going to beat it very soon. What he didn't expect though, was the massacre this player was about to commit. Klonoa was in the middle of a skip revolution, and Valnir was the one leading it. The community was receiving new runners interested in the game after watching the amount of skips and tech it had to offer. Val was sitting very comfortably at the top, with a gap of nearly 3 minutes over second place. It was clear he was in a league of his own. It wasn't going to be easy, but someone finally decided it was his time to shine. He wasn't only going for the world record. No, this time, his goal was to show others and himself the result of countless months of attempts and practice in his favorite game.
Nice! Fuck yeah! Nice! Really nice! World fucking record! Yeah! This is the video to prove my world record again. This is my controller, the PS2. And mi capturadora que está hecha mierda, el micrófono. Legna de chat, all. 38.59. No me lo creo, no me lo creo. 38.59. I never think that I can do this time.
With this run, Elsis was finally satisfied and decided to move on, leaving a legacy that most likely will never be forgotten. His last comment after submitting the run: GG, Klonoa died. Was this true? Was the game really dead after this milestone? Well, the length of this video would like to say something about it. This is Klonoa 2, Lunatic's Veil, the sequel of Door to Phantomile, and what you just saw was the first 1 hour and 36 minute run done by the Japanese runner Acne567. This run marked the ending of his journey in this game, but it also marked the beginning of a new arc in his speedrunning career. You see, Acne had already met Harutomo before, since Haru also used to run this game alongside the prequel. So Acne was really interested in learning Klonoa 1 with Haru's guidance. Thus, while Valnor and Elsis were lowering the record, Acne was also learning and improving his skills for 6 months. He's been watching from behind through all this period, but it was time he revealed himself as one of the most talented runners this game has ever produced. So close to sub 40 and only 1 minute and 12 seconds from Elsis 38. On October 14, Acne and Harutomo played a friendly race. But what started as an innocent rally between two comrades evolved into one of the most tense and closest races in Klonoa's history. Harutomo won with a time of 39:08, a new personal best that put them only 9 seconds away from the world record. But Acne wasn't too far behind. He got a 39:43, getting for himself a comfortable top 3. But he didn't stop there. He wanted to get his own 38 and be able to prove Elsie's statement wrong. Acne wasn't going to do this, but he had no choice. From now on, he will use some of the riskier strats in 3-1. 8 months ago, in February of 2018, Balnior found that you can use the enemy clip in this section of the stage to snipe the box that needed to be destroyed in order to get the key. This only saved about 10 seconds, but it wasn't easy to get it properly. Clipping too much could cause you to fall out of bounds. So for the small time save it gave, this was only theorized to be used by a task. Adding to this, Val also found another strat, just some weeks before Agni got his 39. In this video, he showed that the last 2 doors in 3-1 had loading zones active, which meant we don't need the key to actually get through. He then used the enemies to clip on top of the door frame and got a second clip right after to get into the loading trigger. However, do not be deceived. While they do look simple, they are very precise and can only work on specific spots. If you don't get these strats fast enough, you start losing time instead of saving any. Acne was aware of this, but if he really wanted to beat Elsie's, he would have to risk it all. And so he did. 2018 was over, and after a bunch of activity and discoveries happening this year, the next one was definitely more chill in comparison. During this year, multiple runners started improving and practicing some of the most recent skips, and runs under 50 minutes were showing up from time to time on the leaderboards. Trop, a top runner from Australia, managed to show the run in the Games Done Quick Marathon, which, if you remember, hasn't picked up Klonoa since Caveman's run in 2016. This performance showed most of the big discoveries of last year, and it served as a good introduction of the game to many viewers who didn't know anything about it. Perhaps with this showing, more runners will join the community and try grinding to be the next world record holder. Or perhaps we don't need any of that. I mean, why waiting for someone to learn the ropes when we already have someone that made many of them?
Nice! 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 Fucking perfect! Fuck my life! Fuck! The pressure! I can't believe it, man! Stupid fail, man!
It wasn't enough. This was Elsie's last run. His description on the leaderboard, 37 is possible, and he wasn't lying. If he wouldn't have missed the early move in Thief 2 and 3 shots in Nahatum, this was more than likely going to be it. So, Elsis couldn't do it, and he's now officially gone from the community. Who else will be determined enough to push this game to its limits, just as Agni did? Wait, maybe the answer was right in front of us all this time. In order to beat Agni, perhaps we have to think like him, live like him, and maybe talk like him?
カウントダウン3、2、1、ワッフー。はい、始まりました。はい、始まったらですね、最初タイトル画面が出るんですが、
This is Neko, yet another Japanese runner that enjoyed playing the Klonoa games. He joined the server in 2017, but started running door to Phantomile in late 2018. His personal best starting 2019 was 40 minutes and 30 seconds, which put him at 6th place at the time. He then took a long break of 1 year, just to return back to the grind in mid-2020. His final goal was already locked inside. Let's see what he's capable of.
PB 自己でおめでとうございます。どうだどうだ3だよし
He did it. The grind is finally over. Neko's main goal was finally fulfilled, so he took a well-deserved break after this. However, a month later, something strange happened. Nobody knows why, but a random user commented this on Neko's run. Test. Testing what? Was this person just testing the comments box, or was he about to test his skills and perseverance through a run that could beat this time? Nah, the first one sounds more reasonable. This runner starts the run with very minimal mistakes in Vision 1 and 2, just 5 seconds behind Neko's run. But it's time to enter Vision 3. Surely they won't be able to do the clip. 1 second behind world record. This is already extremely impressive, but they are just halfway through. Let's see if they can keep up. After Vision 4, roles were reversed. This runner was actually ahead of Neko by 2 seconds. Vision 5 is next and hands are starting to sweat. A small mistake, but they recover with a great clip here. Run is still going. An unfortunate endgame. This run, while still being 4th place, was different from so many others. It proved 2 things. 1. That Neko's run could be beaten, and 2. That sub 38 was definitely doable. Dil Wingo was truly testing the limits of this game with his run. 1 month after this, given the amount of active runners the game had, Neko decided to host a special event for the community. On November 20th, he inaugurated the first Klonoa international race, featuring 5 top runners at the time. Dil, the newcomer who got that incredible run in world record pace. A Moser, one of the very few runners to ever got a sub 40. JJ Toro, a Finnish player who was already an expert in both this and the Wii version. Shimure, the newest Japanese runner of them all, showing incredible progress in little time. And Balnior, the wisest of the bunch, with no need for further introduction. Unfortunately that day, Dil couldn't make it on time, but this was still a 4-way race that could live up to the hype. And that's time. Balnior got a 41-minute run in the race. Not a bad time at all, considering he was very rusty for not doing runs in a while. A very good performance that got him the silver. just behind a Moser, who got a 40.57. This was a really close race between the two of them. And one of the biggest highlights of this versus was without a doubt the time both nailed the ultimate 6 to skip, which, as seen before, is a very difficult and precise trick to pull off, especially on a race setting. The event was a success overall, and it motivated a Moser to keep grinding and lowering his times. He managed to get a 38 of his own that blew all his expectations. With only 17 seconds away from world record, this was the chance he was looking for. His goal to be the first runner to break the 38-minute barrier was closer than ever before. But there was one problem.
Moser 2. Gotcha. NEKO 22GG NEKO 22GG NEKO 22GG NEKO 22.
A run that carried all the spirits from previous Japanese runners and that culminated in one of the biggest achievements in Klonoa's history. Neko officially retired after this, and a Moser decided to stop running this category to focus on other ones. "2022 had just started, and everything seemed relatively calm in terms of world record contenders. The community received so many new runners who were truly enjoying the speed game. But no one wanted to take a step further into thinking of reaching the heights of Neko's run. A Moser who retired from grinding the main category was more interested in helping the growth of the community, and managed to get accepted in SGDQ to showcase how far this game had gotten.
However, what Amos is going to try and do right here is bypass even that. So we do the wall clip here.
First try. Oh my gosh.
That's amazing. That is so good.
Oh
That
my
is
gosh.
Such a precise trick.
Meanwhile, the Klonoa group received big news when the remaster for this game and the sequel were announced. In July, while hunting for glitches in the newest remaster for this game, user Bobby Case found a faster way to collect the red orb in 5.1. It was an incredible precise trick in which you jump off a move to grab the flying wad midair and shoot it just at the right time so it pops the checkpoint bubble which is on the other side. This will warp you directly where the red orb is, saving about 8 seconds. Then, it clicked. If this works here, why wouldn't it work on the original one? Bobby tested this theory and it just worked. A brand new strat in 2022. Perhaps this discovery will ignite the fire that could push someone to come back and run at top level. But who would that be, and most importantly, when?
Go.
Moser is back at it, and this time he got everything he needed to ensure the victory over Neko. A brand new strat, the PlayStation 2 with the NAM collection, and the strongest determination you could ask for. On the 11th of February, he got a 38.01 while running offline, putting him only 3 seconds away from glory. He knew at that moment that he was going to get the run anytime now.
Did that actually just happen? Oh my god. I cannot believe that. Obviously I was playing super safe there at the end. For reasons I'm sure you can guess. Whew.
During the rest of 2023, the community remained quiet in this category for a while. In terms of new discoveries, there were small optimizations over platforming sections of the run, but only one stood out from the rest. In the phase 1 of Nahatum's fight, Valnir found a way to manipulate Naha's attack animations, more specifically, the tongue one. This attack wastes around 8 seconds, so Val experimented killing some moves on purpose to skip the tongue attack and initiate the spawning phase. However, even with this new tech, no threats were posed upon Monsters 37. Well, maybe just one.
We were talking about ramen or something, and I was talking about like shrimp. How basically Rongo Longo is like one of those shrimps you find in your instant noodle cups. Holy fuck, that was fast. Klonoa is just going wahoo all over the place. Crap. Almost fucking had it, dude. That was close.
Oh, I'm quick!
Oh, I'm quick. That's unfortunate. Lost a little bit of time there. Oh, fuck! Oh, that was so close. Holy shit, dude. No fucking way, man. Oh, yeah. Hell yeah! It's fucking 38.
A great run that could have been so much closer to the 37 if the skipping 6-2 could have cooperated. A really good attempt from Nail Legend that solidified him in the top 5. This motivated a Moser, and after deliberating it for a while, he decided it was time to break the next minute barrier of this game. It wasn't going to be easy, but it was doable, and that's all he needed to know. The only notable time loss in this run was the first door clip in 3-1. If he could do the same run without that mistake, then we will be looking at the first 36. Being so close but at the same time so far made a Moser took an indefinite break, and it wasn't until July of 2024 that he returned once more to make history. This run didn't have a good start. He made a small mistake trying to grab a move in 1-2, and his fight with Rongo wasn't ideal. However, he made some time getting a fast door clip in 2-1, and a kind Pamela. In 3-1, he corrects his mistake in the first door, gets a smooth clip in the second one, and to top it all, he goes for the early switch on the gondola, one of the hardest skips in the game. You have to be able to get a double jump and precisely throw the move a bit to the right so it hits the switch and not the big armored move. It's really finicky and could waste a lot of time if done wrong, but a Moser had to risk it in order to combat the time loss from the previous stages. And just like that, the pace went from 5 seconds behind to a sizable lead of 35 seconds. His 3-2 gave him 5 more seconds, but unfortunately a misthrow in Gelpon put him back at less than 30. Bit of a time loss, but this pace was still enough to accomplish his mission. Vision 4 goes as planned, with a flawless 4-1 escape and the perfect Palladium. Just 2 more visions to go. This started to become painful to watch. A Monster got another insanely good pace for a 36, but the game wouldn't give him a break. Later that same month, the PlayStation Racing server, led by Darixer, announced their next weekly global race. And you guessed it, they chose Klonoa Door to Phantomile. The race was set up for July 20th, and many Klonoa runners were interested in joining the biggest race for their game. Runners like Pucci, Cleffy, Keida, Noob Killer Roof, Shadow Knight, and Inconsistent signed it up. But perhaps the attention was more focused on these two. A Moser, the current world record holder who was incredibly close to get the first 36, and Balnior, the most experienced and knowledgeable runner this game has ever had, this time with a copy of Nan Collection of his own. We have seen each other face before, but could the outcome be different this time around? Another incredibly close one. This matchup never disappoints. The best part of it? This was just the beginning. This race might be over, but the one that matters the most is right in front of them. It was done. What was once believed as a pipe dream was now a reality. And Mouser felt pretty good about this run, even considering the 20-second time loss in Gadius. He finally felt like a weight had been lifted from his shoulders, and stopped running the category, but not without mentioning something in his description. I don't anticipate this being the record for too long. He knew that, while he was already satisfied with his performance, someone else was still hungry for more. 2 days after this run, Balnor got a 37:19, but in this attempt he lost around 40 seconds trying to do the wall clip in 4-1. With this substantial amount of time save, it was only a matter of time before Bal could hit a home run. And on the 10th of August, he managed to get a 36:41, a run that even Balnor himself didn't expect to get. He decided that day to avoid looking at his splits and just run without worrying about the pace. When he retimed this minutes later, he couldn't believe it.
I think I missed a split. Wait. I'm gonna have to check if this is actually fast. 1 second.
So that's it, right? Bal got his own 36. Well, let's not forget about something. I said he was hungry, and this was only the appetizer. Just 6 days later, he improved his record to a 36:26. Another insanely good run. How could he even top that? Well, there were 3 major tricks in the run that Bal couldn't get in this one. The first one to talk about is the 4-1 skip. So far, you've seen many runners doing the skip the way it was conceived. But at this point, I feel the need to mention that there is a faster way to do it. This one is the ultimate 4-1 skip, and it doesn't only rely on precise inputs, it also requires luck, as you have 1 in 3 chances to hit it correctly. Balnor gets unlucky in his personal best, losing about 12 seconds in the process. The second one is the 3-1 switch skip, and you already know all about this one. An incredible precise trick in where you have only 1 shot to make it work. Balnor went for it and unfortunately missed the switch, costing him another 10 seconds. Finally, the third trick is possibly the most frustrating to get, as it relies so much on luck you are basically forced to pray. The fastest Gadius fight. The most optimal way to defeat this boss is using all the available moves in his first phase and then use the rest of the moves in his second phase to end the fight. This, of course, is not as easy as it sounds. You don't have control over their spawn points or the directions they choose to go. A literal nightmare to get on a run. A day after Bal got his 36:26, he went live again to keep pushing his limits. On his first attempt, he got decent Visions 1 and 2, great door clips on 3-1, and he also got the infamous 3-1 switch skip. That's one of the major tricks down. Time to face the next one. In his next attempt, he nails once again the 3-1 switch skip, but loses some time trying to get a clip in 3-2. 4-1 needs to go well. Two tricks down, one more to go. But before the fight with Garius, Balnor must make sure to play brilliantly on Vision 5. Red orb? Got it. Blue? Easy job. Yellow? Not a problem. Green? He misses the checkpoint. Run is over. The trick that killed it wasn't even one of the big three, which certainly puts into perspective how hard running this game is at this point. Even when we focus our attention on the hardest tricks, you still need to be able to hit the rest of them consistently in order to run this game at top level. Then, it happened. A run that got all three hardest tricks down. Balnor lowered his personal best to a 36-13. In less than a month, Balnor improved the world record by over 30 seconds. But after all these daily attempts, he still couldn't get everything to go as he wanted. In this run, he made a mistake in Gelk that cost him 20 seconds. He couldn't get the ultimate 6 to skip first try, and he lost 7 seconds in Nahatum Phase 1. He estimated in his description that a 35-minute and 30-second run would be possible without these blunders. However, he needed to take a bit of a break from the intense grind, so he stopped going for PBs and focused more on his consistency. He knew he could get the long-awaited 35, but he wasn't pressured to get it as soon as possible. After all, no one was close to Balnor's times, so it's not like someone could just join randomly and start getting top time. This is Black, a runner from Honduras with plenty of experience running many different games. He started learning the run and live streaming his attempts in September. He quickly improved his times, and in a matter of days he already managed to get a sub 40. What's even more impressive is the fact that Black didn't own the NAND collection. He was playing on emulator with quad loading speeds. This was definitely faster than the old emulator runs from people back in 2016, but it was still losing around 30 seconds when compared to the NAND collection. However, this handicap didn't bother him. He was going to show the whole Klonoa community that he can still get outstanding times. Monumental improvement. Black was breaking barriers so quickly everyone was anticipating his next runs. In his last personal best, he got a slow Gelk and couldn't get the fastest 4-1 skip. This only meant the 36 was right around the corner. The next one had to be it. Then, on the 8th of October, this run happened. A run with a decent start, with visions 1 and 2 going as smooth as they can be. Perfect door clips in 3-1, and a flawless switch skip. 3-2 saves even more time, but Gelk Bomb was not in the mood to cooperate at all. Even with this 20-second time loss, the run continued, and after a near-perfect execution in both Visions 4 and 5, it was time to face the third hardest trick, one last battle with Garius.
Okay, well, if I get perfect gadgets, then this is a good one. It's never gonna happen.
You couldn't ask for a better fight than that. This could be it. A run that could possibly become the first 35 in Klonoa's history. Nahatum was the only obstacle between this run and a dream. The last seconds of the run. Only 4 more cannons to fill. That's 2. And there goes another. An unbelievable ending to a run that was destined to become one of, if not the greatest we've seen so far. While this was heartbreaking, it wasn't going to stop Balnor from keeping trying. That's right, Bal returned after a short break, and he wasn't going away until his final goal was met. This is where the record stands today. In Bal's words, a remarkable run with a level of execution that overcomes everything he has ever done in this game. This run was Balnor's retirement letter, but that doesn't mean this is the end of any percent. The future of Klonoa Door to Phantomile is now upon all of us. It might not be the biggest, but this niche community is perhaps the most supportive one. The current days for Klonoa look very promising, with more runners joining, learning, and enjoying the classic game as everyone does. The cat-like mascot still makes appearances from time to time in big marathons, and while the future is uncertain, the dreams will always remain.